So today we welcome Conor from HederaStarter, a Hedera-focused launchpad to discuss what they're working on and to give us a rundown on EthDenver. That said, we just got some big breaking news. Elon Musk, yes, that Elon Musk, just dropped a tweet with the HBAR symbol. We don't exactly know what it means, but we're looking forward to finding out. What do you think about that, Conor?
I woke up about, I'd say 20, 30 minutes ago and immediately got tagged in a bunch of that stuff. And I was like, just completely surprised, just kind of like stumbling out of bed, like what is going on? So I'm very kind of excited to see where this means, because obviously we're all well aware kind of the ethos of Elon and a lot of his companies. So, you know, is he going to quite literally take HBAR to the moon? Maybe, or we're going to see some kind of integration with maybe SpaceX or the Boring Company or Tesla or any of those. I think that's kind of hopefully where it leads. Fingers crossed. I'm doing my praying back here at my house, and that's where I hopefully we see something kind of pop up, either one of his companies or maybe himself potentially on the governance council. So, you know, we could do as much hoping and praying as we can. So hopefully something like that turns out.
Yeah, exciting for sure. So we'll kick off into our regular interview here. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and the team at HederaStarter?
Yeah, so I started out in the crypto industry, like officially working last year. I graduated college with a degree in electrical engineering from Texas A&M. A whoop, if you know the Aggies. From there, I ended up joining a project just as part-time for fun as a community manager, and then kind of got like frontline experience dealing with the community, which is very interesting. And then from there, I just continued to kind of exert myself and show that I'm able to kind of function in society as a person, and I can accept responsibility, and gradually work my way up into a position of head of research, where I did a lot of kind of project incubation stuff, and worked kind of behind the scenes on project accelerators and got a lot of experience kind of in that regard, getting my eyeballs on a bunch of different projects within a bunch of different sectors of cryptocurrency, whether DeFi, gaming, NFTs, legal side, health side, a bunch of different aspects. And so I was able to kind of get a nice breadth of experience. And then from there, I think the translation to Hedera was pretty obvious, just because we had been getting winds of what was going on with Hedera, and we were beginning to, you know, finally see kind of a culmination of a lot of moving parts with the whole smart contracts. Now that they're here, and then now that they're being finalized, that was kind of like the reason that I really felt it'd be a really opportune time for us to go over and, you know, do our best kind of as a team in order to put out like the best projects possible and really be supportive in that manner. And that's kind of where my team comes from as well. We're focused primarily, or we have experience kind of developing launch pads and stuff like that, but more so we just have the general understanding and the knowledge on what to look for in projects, what to fix, what to adjust, what to make better, and how to directly support teams so they're going to be successful throughout the acceleration process itself, and then kind of post launch once they actually kind of go off in the ecosystem and are on their own. So,
well, I mean that's a good lead into the next question. So, what's your goal and vision for HederaStarter?
Yes, so I actually just wrote like a 2-page introduction to our accelerator grant yesterday, okay. And that's a really good kind of explanation. But the TLDR of that is. I think we all understand that, you know, Hedera already has an inkling of the community. We already have kind of NFTs going around. We have the first kind of dApps happening with Dovu and all those guys. Sure. And so we have the very like basic foundations of an ecosystem. But I think once we kind of have the finalization of smart contracts in Q2, and once we have like the full 100% good to go from the Hedera Foundation, you're going to start to see a flood of just apps and people and everything kind of coming into the ecosystem. And so our goal is to, one, get kind of like the stamp of approval from the Hedera Foundation, and you know, get the trust and credibility, which is why we're applying for their accelerator grant, so that we can begin helping assisting them with projects and funneling money from them into the projects that we're launching, and then all the projects that come through us on Hedera, but all in support of just the general vision of the Hedera Foundation, and then just to expand the Hedera ecosystem. And for me, my own personal priority is a bit more human. I'm much more of a fan of developing a culture and a general kind of propagation of character values, if that makes sense. I know it's not like the shiniest piece of technical thing to kind of go off of, but I think we can all agree that with a lot of the other smart contract platforms, whether it be Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum, whatever, they all have their own cultures that are ossified or have been fully developed or are in the process of being developed. And so with Hedera, it's kind of nice where we have a relatively tight-knit community on the network, and then the culture is relatively strong, at least between those members. And so now the focus is on one. We're going to have a lot of people coming over, people that are either going to be converted to Hedera or people that are simply here to move some TVL around, move some liquidity, make some money, and get out. And so we want to make sure that kind of being pretty early with what we're doing, that the culture that's already here and that already exists is the one that's going to spread, and that's going to go, and that's the one that we want to impress upon every single project that we're kind of putting out. We're not necessarily here to act as gatekeepers, at least to the wider kind of crypto community, but we want to make sure that that culture is one maintained and is grown, because what Hedera is doing, and then kind of how that ties into its culture, is separate from a lot of what you see with the other cryptocurrencies. I'm not trying to say that the other cryptocurrencies are childish, and that's not really where I'm aiming. It's just, if you look at it, you have things that are happening on chain in Ethereum, as an example, that don't necessarily transcend boundaries and cross over into the material world. Mm-hmm. You would agree that we have the governance council, which is just the easiest kind of like, hey, look, we're not just confined to some nodes on the internet. We actually do have things that are going to impact, are impacting, and are currently being researched that are going to impact people's lives. And so all of that, or all these bits and pieces kind of make up the underlying foundation of the Hedera culture. And that's something that we really hope to assist with, and assist kind of propagating and kind of pushing out, and ensuring that we kind of maintain as a chain, because while every chain and every network like ourselves can boast, a wide variety of technical enhancements and technical superiorities to you or to you or to you to A, B, and C, people are going to use the chains and use networks for their own kind of personal reasons. And if we can kind of give them even further reasons than just our own kind of network superiority, but additionally just a culture of just general innovation, a culture of integrity, and then a culture and an overall idea that we're trying to really breach into the material world and really kind of, actually having Hedera make an impact on people's physical lives, rather than just, keeping everything kind of confined to Web3. So It's a long answer, but hopefully that kind of elucidates a bit.
No, yeah, absolutely. Hedera is absolutely a different animal, and a lot of people come to it because of their professionalism and things like that. So as far as I can tell, there are 3 ways that we can increase the amount of capital that's available to the Hedera ecosystem. We can entice investment into startups, and you're obviously involved with that. Outlier Capital's involved with that. Those startups are already building on the network, so we can try to get investment into their hands. Another way is to sell more HBAR, but that's kind of counterproductive compared to the number 3, which is you can increase the value of the HBAR that was already going to be sold. And one of the ways we can do that is through total value locked, TVL, which you already kind of mentioned. So can you explain what TVL is and how we would go about increasing TVL for HBAR?
Yeah, so TVL is kind of like your DeFi degen way of measuring the overall health of a chain, and it's and you can kind of see based on TVL the overall activity and just the overall kind of value of the chain or the network itself. And I apologize if I keep using chain interchangeably with the network, but
that's okay. We do too.
Yeah. So TVL is kind of essentially like a health metric, and in essence, it is just the general amount of money, capital, and liquidity kind of flowing around on a chain. Obviously, we have Ethereum as the kingpin at the moment, sitting at the very top. But for us with TVL, it's just a very kind of accurate measurement, because we effectively like to think of Hedera currently as sitting at relatively like 0 TVL, in the sense of we don't necessarily have DeFi applications and other NFTs and DAOs and apps like that allow us to really kind of store value and really kind of represent that in that kind of intangible way. And so for us as one of the metrics that we're kind of judging our own success on as a launchpad is, hey, are we able to increase the actual value? Are we able to attract volume? Are we able to attract liquidity to the projects that we're launching? Are those projects able to bring on liquidity from outside the system? Because at the end of the day, just where we are at with the market, we can only create so much wealth within the system. We're going to have to go out and bring in other people and go off and kind of expand the audience overall. And that's how we're really going to attract it. And that's kind of what you saw. If you paid attention to Avalanche, they had their liquidity, their Avalanche Snowstorm or something. They had a liquidity mining event, which was effectively trying to bring TVL to the chain. That was about $1 billion worth of incentives and rewards. And they did a pretty decent job of attracting liquidity. And now you can make an argument whether or not that stuck around, but it went to other chains and dissipated over time. But we're going to have to do something similar, not necessarily like a liquidity mining event or something where we're just like throwing out gobs of cash, but we're going to need to do something that is going to be able to give people a reason to come onto Hedera. And so the technology plays into it, the overall, attractiveness of the governance council and all the things that we espouse come onto it, but also as a launchpad, simply putting out projects that work, that are, fantastic, and that kind of build upon the superiority of the Hedera network itself, I think is going to be one of the great kind of drawing factors as people are able to kind of see, as we kind of breach all these various different benchmarks and transaction thresholds and all those numbers, and really start to say, hey, these are the numbers that we're advertising, and look, that we're actually able to back it up. We're able to really hit, these high amounts of TPS, because that's going to be super cool for me. So, TVL is going to be a great way to measure it. And then I know it's, everyone's always talking about the transactions per second. So that's going to be something that's going to be awesome to see, that as we start to bring on, as we have 100,000 users, 250,000 users, 1 million users, 10 million users, and so on, we're really going to start to see, TPS be a super, super interesting kind of measurement as well, in addition to TVL, as we kind of hope to push TVL to 1 billion. I know my own personal goal, I'd love to see TVL at 1 billion by the end of the year. But, lofty goals, shoot for the stars, land on the moon or something like that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to. I mean, we got Celsius that could possibly list. We have Saucer Swap. We have HBAR. We have Hashport. Those are all ways that we can get some TVL, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming out. So moving on, I know you attended EthDenver. What was that event like?
Yes, it was freezing. I drove in from Texas. That was like a I don't know, like a 14, 15-hour drive, but it was a lot of fun once we actually kind of got stuck into it. There was a lot of people there, like an excessive amount of people. I'm pretty sure they kind of overbooked, but that was good because that just allows more people to talk to at the end of the day. Yeah. And so I spoke to a bunch of different people. I talked to a lot of people at the Hedera Foundation for overall guidance, just meeting them, getting to know them better, and then just kind of basically talking to them about the vision that we have at HederaStarter and making sure that, that aligns with the Hedera Foundation. And I was very happy to see that we were all kind of in agreement and that we all were, on the same page and kind of aiming for the same thing, because I didn't obviously want to be out of sync with that. But more importantly, a lot of the venture capitalist people, the angel people, that was more when I was speaking to those people, that was a lot of kind of just evangelizing Hedera in general. Some of them knew of Hedera. A few of them knew of the governance council as a good selling point, because I found that the governance council was a really good selling point, because a lot of these guys, for better or for worse, they have their reputation as investors, but they get lots of projects that come their way, and so they have to have like a differentiating factor. And for me, it was like an easy thing, like, all these different chains and all these projects that hype themselves up on all this news when they get like a sponsorship with a local gas station is great and all, but we've managed to actually get these guys to sign on board to a governance council. These are Fortune 100, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies that are actually doing meaningful things in the world and that are leading their industries. They're not just some off-brand thing that's going to, peter out over the next few months. These are things that have been happening for quite a while and will continue to grow and grow as more and more people join, and as those companies, find more and more use cases for the network itself. And then so once we were able to kind of explain that, I think that kind of really helped kind of open their eyes, because then from there, we're able to talk about HederaStarter and the general ecosystem itself of, okay, so now that we have this institutional backing that's actually being used, it's legitimate institutional backing, we can then proceed to begin to make the connection and bring the Web3 developments that we, innovated on with DeFi, with NFTs, and we continue to develop with DAOs and everything that's happening in that space, and then bring that into the actual world with what these institutional companies are doing. And that's when we're actually going to see things that are going to improve people's lives, and not just, help a few thousand people on the internet earn $1 million.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like for a lot of the people that I talked to, that was a good kind of like mental connection for them. And I had lots of good chats. I know I was speaking to people. So I showed up, Wednesday, and I was speaking to people Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like 10 and 12 hours every day, just kind of walking around the convention, just meeting people throughout the events. And also for devs too, we can hit on that. For them, it was great because I know some of Hedera's peers have smart contract systems that are not necessarily EVM based, which makes deploying on it, coding on, auditing it a bit more difficult,
Sure,
a bit more challenging, and that's their design choice. I completely respect that. But it is nice for Hedera to be EVM because of just the accessibility and the quality of talent. I saw lots of different projects, and these guys are doing the hackathon, so they're spinning stuff up in a few hours, and it was just really cool to see what they were building from scratch. Really, kind of in a very cramped convention hall. A very cramped convention center. Trust me, I would like wake up in my hotel, come downstairs, go have the wonderful Holiday Inn Express Continental Inn breakfast, like 7
I've had a few.
These guys would sit on their laps. I know they're good. You gotta love those eggs. But you'd see these teams like all together building at like 7 a.m. and it was great. And then talking to them, it's like, hey, the stuff that you're building can also be easily transferred over or easily deployed on Hedera. And that was just and they were excited to hear about that because, for a lot of these people, they are like, this is their thing. This is what they're doing. They may not necessarily have another job. They may have put all their eggs in this basket. And so they're trying to do the best they can to really be innovative with the things that they're building. And so, for them, deploying on Avalanche or Ethereum, which is, very cost prohibitive, or any of these other chains, they are chains that are very built up already with the selection of dApps. And so, for them, at least from a kind of like being able to kind of get by with like some sort of income, it's a bit hard for them. And so, the opportunity with Hedera also lies in the fact that, it's hasn't necessarily been built up with dApps yet. It doesn't have necessarily the DeFi and every other type of infrastructure. And for them, it's an even more lucrative option because they could really experiment with some of the ideas that they're kind of putting forward. And that's kind of that ties back into the whole culture of innovation with Hedera. Is like, hey, we have we're so new and everything, and that's what we want to maintain. Is that we give people the opportunity to try and to fail and to improve and succeed. And that's something that you're not necessarily able to see with a lot of other projects deploying on other chains. So
yeah. We don't have to be pushy about it, right? We could just put that bug in their ear and just let Elon Musk do the rest of the work for us, right? So you mentioned that you had some engagement with the HBAR Foundation. Can you give us some feedback on that meeting?
Yes. So we've had, so with regards to EthDenver, I was able to meet the CFO, met Miss Kim, CMO, I met Don, Ed Marquez, and a bunch of other guys in the Dev Evangelist team, and just I think Don was a general strategy officer, so I don't want to diminish his title, but a lot of good people, a lot of good connections on that just to help myself and to help my dev team reach, kind of just have access to connections. We also met with Mr. Smith, who's the VP of Startup and Acceleration. We had our HBAR Accelerator Foundation grant. I'm trying to remember if that's the right ordering of the words. We had another meeting last week on, I think, Tuesday, leading up to the conference, and that was, hey, we filled out kind of like the rough template, and so now it's a matter of we've got like 11, 12 pages of the template done, or I mean the template is done. It's about 11 or 12 pages, and now it's a matter of, okay, we don't want to just straight follow the template, transfer it over to another document, make it nice and pretty. And so we have all the ideas on the template, and so we've answered everything that that was asked of us. And so now it's a matter of making that actually enjoyable to read, making it have style, making it have flair, and really present the ideas that we're trying to get across. I mean, that's why I just finished up a freaking a 2-page just introduction, which just speaks specifically about the HederaStarter vision, and how that aligns with the overall Hedera ecosystem and then the wider kind of cryptocurrency industry. And so I feel like that, and then as we kind of finish up the rest of the application the rest of this week, we're going to be able to really kind of stand out, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be able to eventually kind of get the seal of approval and then get the grant from the Hedera Foundation and become kind of like a designated accelerator program, which would be fantastic, because one, that lends credibility to us, and then two, it allows us to kind of alleviate a lot of the burden that the Hedera Foundation has to deal with, because I mean they only have so many people, and I can imagine they want as much help as they can get. And so any projects that they may not have time to really kind of put some effort into and really refine, they can pass it off to us. My team and I, we can really use our long-standing experience with the incubation with startups, and apply that to those projects. And then then we have the access to the Hedera Foundation for funds, and we can say, hey, we've done our due diligence. We really think these guys are good to go, and they kind of believe everything that we believe, and they're going to have a good product that's going to find a good product market fit and really serve people that it's designed to serve. And then we can get them funding from the Hedera Foundation in addition to all the funding from our our startup VC investor network. So with all of that being said, it's just a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes in the work. I don't want to be too forthcoming with a lot of it, just because I want to overpromise or deliver type deal.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm very excited every day. Every day is a great day, just to kind of keep working and keep pushing.
Yeah, well, good luck with it. And if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. So you mentioned that you were talking to VCs and angel investors. You're set up as a DAO. How does the VC and angel investor mindset differ from the DAO structure of HederaStarter?
Yeah, so and that's something that we kind of really wanted to explore, and really wanted to try to honestly experiment with the DAO, because the way we have it kind of structured with the HDAO is kind of the component within the HederaStarter. So you're basically going to be able to purchase, so you'll have the HStart token that you'll purchase, and you can do two things with that, two primary functions. You can stake on the HPAD and just participate in IDOs, or you can participate in or stake your token in the HDAO, participate in the actual incubation process itself. And so in a traditional kind of launch pad, you'd see VCs and investors and all those kind of guys behind the scenes get access to the seed and the private rounds initially. They'd have their, they may provide a little bit of feedback, not really too much in my honest opinion, but they participate in those kind of earlier rounds that most public investors don't get access to, most retail investors don't get access to. And then from there, that's when the project will proceed to the IDO, and then everyone else, whole retail, will be able to participate. So with the way the HDAO is, if you stake a fair amount of tokens, then you're already going to be able to, then you'll be able to have access to the seed and the private rounds, and then just the general kind of projects that are being incubated, because in order to actually pass muster and for these guys to get our own stamp of approval, the individual HDAO councils are going to have to look at the project and then actually review it themselves and all vote and determine if they actually want to pass this project through. So we have our own kind of like council split up based on different industries, but it's effectively kind of mimicking the Hedera Foundation, and the fact that we have different councils, say like a DeFi council, and we have members that have enough HStart to stay to the DeFi council, and they're going to be focused on kind of applying their own feedback and criticism and everything to projects that are in the DeFi council and that are kind of coming through that, so that we as a team can work with the HDAO members in order to kind of meet halfway and come to a really good, decision on what a project should look like. Because, for me, in my experience, it was just like, I would just be speaking to teams. And so, ideas that I present, they would present back. We kind of counter, go back and forth, because it is their project at the end of the day, they don't have to necessarily launch. And so, we try to work out a compromise, what we kind of think is best. And so now, we have myself, and then we'll have the projects and the teams. And so it's like a nice trifecta as well. And then what is even better is that in the beginning, it's going to be kind of a new thing for a lot of people, kind of seeing this side of the industry. But my feeling is that as we really start to progress kind of as a project or as a launch pad, and our community gets more and more access to projects, that's only better, because one, it will continue to improve my own experience, but it's also going to improve all of their experiences. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to have even better knowledge and even a better understanding of what to look for. And so projects that we're going to be, launching in 6 months of the year, 2 years, 3 years time, are going to be significantly, more improved, more refined, than they are kind of like on initial launch, because our community is going to be so well trained. And so VCs kind of play into that, because they'll be able to do the exact same thing. They'll be able to buy up tokens, stake, and actually participate in the incubation process itself, which is going to be kind of a much more kind of public and transparent thing for me to kind of allow, because just the overall transparency of that is going to be kind of an alluring aspect for that, where everyone's going to be able to kind of see how the money is flowing within the initial kind of pre-money stages, which has been a bit more opaque, in previous kind of dApps.
So do you already have any capital that's already earmarked or already allocated to HederaStarter?
Yes, we finished up seed round. I think our private round opened up Monday of this week. And so we secured a nice kind of bundle for seed, and now we're just working on finishing up private. And so kind of the big focus for me with the money that we kind of generate is making sure that just me as a founder, as a leader at the end of the day, that my guys are able to all have an income that's decent for where they are, so they don't have to work other jobs. They can focus on this, because I just want that honestly, I want that their full attention and their full kind of, focus to be on what we're doing within Hedera, because, I'm working, I'm sure you are working as well. We're all working very kind of long days, especially now within the ecosystem, just because there's so much to do. Yeah. So I want to provide, enough kind of incentives for them and their, for their husbands or wives and kids, and not have to, worry about anything. And so for me, kind of it's, we have the funding focused on that, funding focused on just general kind of marketing and stuff like that. And we'll have like a budget, I think, to kind of last us, worst case scenario, Bitcoin goes to negative $1,000, whatever, to kind of last us through these hopefully 4 years. Yeah. With kind of the current team that we have. So funding wise, we're doing great, and we're trying to finish up all that just to kind of get more funding, just so we have a bigger safety net, just so that I can kind of sit comfortably and then my guys can sit comfortably, because, I want to make sure they're comfortable, because that's what's going to help me kind of perform better, so that I'm not anxious, I'm not worried about about them, and I'm not worried about kind of the overall health of the project or being able to afford certain stuff. So.
I gotcha. Good stuff. So what was your overall takeaway from EthDenver?
Yes. So my biggest takeaway was that like things are beginning to really kick off. I think once we see the whole finalization of smart contracts, then we're going to really start to see a rush in capital, if I'm being honest, because the waters are already starting to get a little bit choppy. With people being aware of Hedera, and then now after speaking to them and really to see that clicks, and really kind of seeing the click of the enterprise, the smart contracts, the dApps being able to be connected, and then all the potential money, because it's for them as an appeal to money. It's like, hey, you have an ecosystem that is like literally starting from day one. There's so much that you can invest in and to do. It's going to really attract a lot of people. And so as we start to kind of continue to push marketing, and we're making sure that our marketing is on point with the Hedera Foundation, we're going to really start to kind of pound that out of like, we're a brand new ecosystem, like, come to us, we are here to, launch stuff. And I think that's going to be a really big draw for people. And so we're going to start to see a lot of hype, I'd imagine, kind of ramping up towards end of Q2. And so now at that point, it's just a matter of managing expectations, making sure that we execute and we deploy. We're good to go in that regard. And then from there, it's just going to be, I think, maybe 2022 will be the year of Hedera, if not 2023, kind of with everything that can be done. So that's kind of that's my overall takeaway, is that the best is yet to come, to use a quote.
Start to ramp it up. So one thing I noted, did you come from the Cardano space? Is that where you were working a lot last year? Okay, well, the rest of your team, same thing, or?
Not the rest. Well, part of the team, yes, but I'd say I'm trying to think. A few of us came from Cardano, just because we had just the general experience.
Sure.
At least for like the marketing and the overall like leadership stuff. But the kind of core technical team, those dev guys are all like Solidity people through and through. And then some of the other people that I recruited were just general crypto people that were just interested in crypto in general. But yeah, no, some of my team did kind of come from Cardano. So at least for that, and that's kind of where I started out as a community manager. That really helped me kind of understand like really how to be like manage expectations, be careful with what you're saying, be precise, and then make sure that we have everything like sorted and understood fully, because, for better or for worse, you can kind of look at like the whole Cardano ecosystem as a learning experience. And so, whether or not they eventually get things going is up to them, but it's just kind of for me, it was a big, just massive learning experience really early on in my career. So. Yeah.
So what kind of enticed you to move over? Was it, the HBAR Foundation? Was it just the tech? What was it about Hedera?
So on top of just seeing, I think honestly, the governance council really, and I know that's kind of like a weird, it may be a weird drawing point for some people, but the big focus, or not the big focus, one of the things that I really resonate with is just kind of a more, impactful, real connection. Sure. I know I have a lot of friends who are working class people. I'm not necessarily working class, but it's like, I was working like in a restaurant for 5 years and then doing other things that are just very kind of hands-on, more manual labor stuff. And then, even still a lot of my friends are doing kind of manual labor or very much kind of day-to-day grind stuff that the average person is doing, whether in the US, whether in the West, whether in Latin America or Southeast Asia, everyone is like in their normal lives doing normal things. And, not too many of my friend group is within cryptocurrency. So seeing companies that actually affect people that I know in real life, like, T-Mobile, like there's Telecom and all those guys and Boeing and stuff. And, which is funny with the Boeing things. I have friends that work for Boeing. Which is funny to see. But all these things that actually impact, the average person on a material level, was a significant draw for me because, like I said, it's cool that we can trade our tokens on, internet exchanges, and we can move millions of dollars around quickly. But until we're really able to see the bridging of the divide between what the average guy, who's working at a King Soopers or a Kroger or an HEB or a supermarket, and the stuff that we're doing on here with supply chains and all of that, until we really see kind of that bridging of the gap, then all the stuff that we're doing is rather confined and doesn't really impact people's lives materially unless they get lucky and something happens. So that was the big drawing factor for me, just seeing a company that's really focused, or a foundation that's really focused on bringing and onboarding enterprise-grade companies that are going to actually utilize the tech and do good things in the world with the technology.
Yeah, I mean, when it starts to pile up, you have things like Hala and Starling Project and Toko, and I mean, you have dozens of things that are real world and are being put out there by serious people in the enterprise space. So Conor, you already kind of touched on this, but when are you exactly planning on launching HederaStarter, and what do the next few months look like?
Yeah, so we're, I think, internally kind of discussing and thinking about, and this has been us in our discussions with the Hedera Foundation with the whole kind of finalization of smart contracts. I think We're aiming for an initial release, or initial, like the token generation event and all that. I believe in early April is what we're aiming at. Now, if we do an early April launch, that means we're likely going to launch on like Binance and just on Binance Smart Chain first, and then from there migrate directly over to Hedera, because the thinking is, okay, so Binance is EVM, it's nice and cheap, and then Hedera's EVM, the migration is pretty simple. It's been done before. Or we could wait until smart contracts are actually deployed on Hedera itself. But I think with our discussions with the team, the thinking to lean towards Binance and a release in April is that if we deploy in April and, like, let's say end of Q2, so April, May, June, end of June is when we get smart contracts. We'll just say that that gives us kind of 2 months of real kind of good testing and real good evaluation, live critiquing within from the community to kind of get things up to snuff. Because then from there, the migration from Binance over to another, from one EVM over to another, will be pretty straightforward. Hedera is going to have its own peculiarities, but at least the core kind of EVM, Solidity, general front end, all that general code, we can really refine in like a live trial process on Binance. And then even more importantly for me is where you can then begin utilizing the HDAO, because I think we already have a few projects that we're in discussions with, in talks with, and then assuming everything goes well with them, we can then set everything up on the HDAO and then kind of run like a trial version of the HDAO on the Binance Smart Chain and allow people to kind of witness how the whole incubation process works and really participate in that and essentially get training on it. As we move into the actual Hedera launch, then we can then, okay, now let's bring on the projects and let's begin kind of launching stuff, and let's figure out all the things. Just seeing, to draw on my Cardano experience, just to remember how that went, like on the technical side. I know a lot of devs on that side, and that was a hassle for them, and that was really challenging for them, for a lot of those guys. And so for us, it's just a matter of, okay, Binance technically does make sense. At the end of the day, it's Binance or any other EVM, deploying on one EVM first to really make sure everything is working as intended, and we can work at all the kinks, all the errors, or anything, any bugs, anything like that, before we eventually deploy on Hedera. I feel like that's like just a win-win scenario, because it allows the community to get a taste of what HederaStarter is, as well as understand how the whole thing works, and begin to help us refine it before we eventually deploy on Hedera mainnet. And then with that, we have all the additional kind of marketing. We're gonna have a bunch of stuff coming up. Hopefully doing a lot more interviews and talking with a lot more people like yourself, producing a lot more content. I know for me, I am a prolific writer. I was an engineer. I am an engineer, and so I'm able to really understand kind of the more technical aspect of a lot of the stuff that we've been discussing and that's been coming out within the crypto industry. And so I know I really would like to really like to publish a lot more technical articles with regards to Hedera in general, HederaStarter, some of the Met trends happening within the wider cryptocurrency ecosystem. Kind of why we partnered with HBAR.news, because that's like another avenue. They're a very cool kind of little news news site that's been publishing Hedera specific content, and so a partnership with them was really good for me, really important to me, because that's an avenue to explore for just general kind of innovation. Because if we can become another thought leader in the space and really put out some thought-provoking, some really innovative ideas, just like the Hedera Foundation is doing, I think we're just going to become just a lightning rod for so many different things within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And more press, more attention on us, more people to come through, more people that are excited about things we're doing, things we're talking about, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. It's just, it's just a big boulder that we just keep rolling. It's bigger, 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 and it's gonna be amazing. I'm just so excited.
Good stuff. All right. So one last thing, what are some of the projects that you're working with that you're most excited about?
Yes. So a lot of the stuff that we're putting together now and then refining with some of the teams is just basic kind of DeFi infrastructure and getting all that set up. We've had some teams approach us with ideas, and now it's a matter of refining them, just because I love DeFi. And that's where a lot of my research has been over the past few months. And so we're trying to, pick and choose things from different protocols and really kind of experiment and put together unique things. So we're going to have obviously the standard, we'll have swaps and all that jazz, but it's really trying to offer an innovative product that's really unique, and it has features and utility tokenomics and stuff like that. That is far and away much different than every other project in other ecosystems, and really makes Hedera a unique thing, and then really makes people kind of see the true draw of the network. So.
Yeah. So, Conor, thank you so much for making some time for us. I know you probably want to get on social media and see what's going on with the Elon Musk stuff. But again, thank you so much for making the time. Is there any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be speaking again pretty soon once we kind of get on the other side of the smart contract stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again.